Good evening. Welcome to the Meredith regular meeting of Meredith Select Board at the Community Center, August 4th at 5 after 5. Please stand and do Pledge of Allegiance with Comeau.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lou. At this time, I'll introduce the board. Hillary Seeger.
Good evening.
Lou Kahn.
Good evening.
Nathan Torr.
Good evening.
Vice Chairman Peter Brothers.
Good evening, everyone.
I am Carla Bourne. This is our town manager, Phil Warren.
Good evening.
And recording clerk, Karen Landry. Could I have a motion for the acceptance of minutes for the 7/21 meeting?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the July 21st meeting of 2014.
Thank you, Nate. Could I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Hillary. Any corrections? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving into the town manager's report. Phil, what did you put in my water?
Ice cube.
Bad ice cube, that's it. Okay. That was interesting. That's all right, I can do it. It just completely died. I hope it's not. All line striping on Route 25 has been completed, white and yellow. We put the cones back out, and just so you know, we're going to install sometime this week those semi-permanent posts in place of the cones, because the cones are pretty much a casualty where those straight up and down delineators have some give to them when they're taken out either intentionally or accidentally. Old Hubbard Road, we are in the process, we're about 50% complete on the road. What we've done is we've reclaimed the asphalt. That is, you have a machine that comes in and mills it, pulverizes it. We use that then as a base for the road. We fix the drainage, we regrade the road. We're now at the point of top dressing it with gravel, and we expect that we will be paving soon. Where that leaves us with our road projects is that we're waiting to see, and it looks like we're in pretty good shape. I just jinxed myself, but anyway, it looks like we're in pretty good shape with the work we've done on Old Hubbard Road. There are a lot of unknowns in there, so it looks like that job will come in around budget. If you remember, we were planning on resurfacing a couple of more roads to keep good roads good. One of them was including Livingston Road, and while they could use it to keep the good roads good, we could put them off, and Mike Fowler, Public Works Director, and myself have been looking at the possibility of taking 1.5 inches off Main Street from the intersection of 3 and 25 and proceeding up Walkie-Wan Street and putting 1.5 inches back. Because there are so many structures in that road, we can't just overlay it. We actually have to do what DOT has done on 25 and 3 and take 1.5 inches or 2 inches off and put it back. That would, the milling project would be in the vicinity of $35,000 to $40,000. The paving, depending whether you pave at night or during the day, could be up to $100,000. But if you take the remaining streets and the amount we budgeted, not the amount that's in the road project request, but the amount we budgeted, we could fit that work in budget. If you look at Main Street and Walkie-Wan Street, you would do a pavement condition index on it, you would see that it's failing. And it has failed exponentially, and it's a good demonstration of why you keep your good roads good. It has failed exponentially over the past 8 to 9 months, it really has. This winter did a tune on it because of all the cracking that was open. So, after discussion with Mike, we thought that it would probably be more advantageous for us to spend those funds on that road versus heading out to Livingston and a couple other streets that could that are in this not a bad shape. So, again, it would be, we'd have to do the grinding at night, there's no question about it. That has to be done at night. But the paving, depending on the differential, would decide whether we do it at night or during the day. Of course, one of the concerns about doing it at night is the noise, etc. But you can't do the grinding operation during the day on that street. And of course, we're not proposing to do this until after Labor Day.
That's good news.
So there'll be more to follow on that. We want to, by the next meeting, Old Hubbard should be finished up, so we'll have a better look at how much of a bite we can take of this.
Phil, could you go back over just how far on Main Street this project extends?
We come up from the intersection of 3 and 25, go around the corner on the Waukee Street, and go all the way like towards the railroad tracks. And there's a seam up there where you can see where the pavement goes from bad to good. We'll go to that seam.
Yeah, because we've got we have a small amount in an expendable trust fund for planning, revisions to Main Street. But is this going to be something where it's going to be done and revisions will never then happen?
This is maintenance. That's all this is. This is maintenance that we would do regardless of the Main Street program that needs to be done. You're only putting down. We're not doing any redesign. It's just an overcoat.
And you're just doing the surface.
Correct.
All the stuff that's under there that's going to have to be worked on at some point stays.
Correct. Yeah, if you notice, we did a lot of catch basins in the downtown area this year because they fell in. And we've rebuilt those. But no, none of the underground utilities are going to get touched. None of the, the curbing is not going to get reset. It's going to stay the way it is today. And you would do this regardless. This is just incremental maintenance.
Right.
So we're not going to
We know it on your catch basins in Connecticut, they call those depressed drains.
Well, we had plenty of depressed.
All right.
The last item I have is, and you may have noticed that, or this is more for the viewing public, there's a brand new door in the town hall, a brand new glass and door. That door was put there so that the employees and the occupants of the town hall could have what's known as a second method of egress in the case of an emergency. While not making the building, because it is an old building, 100% code and working requirements compliant, it's getting us there. There was no proper second method of egress to exit that building in the case of any type of emergency for the first floor occupants. And we're getting one step closer. That was one thing that we had to do. The second floor occupants, that's a different story.
Jump out of Phil's window.
That's okay. We can do that. So that's why it was installed.
Yep.
And they did do a nice job.
Madam Chair, that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Any visitors, residents' comments? No? Select board comments? Lou?
Do you want a long and boring report? Okay.
Short and concise is
Just the
good.
facts.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. All right, so the committee met, the 3 and 25 committee met,
Thanks.
and I'll give you a rundown of what went on, and I will also make it clear that if I express my views, they are not the views of the committee, they're only my views, okay?
And hold back on it.
I don't think it pays to hold back. The committee, first off, we considered a single lane roundabout at the 3 and 25 intersection, naked of any other improvements, and rejected it outright because we were told that this would be worse than what we have now. Okay? Then we went on and discussed improved signalization, and the DOT people wanted to add 3 lanes of pavement. But if you pressed them, the 3 lanes of pavement would have been 2 to the north side of 25, 1 for straight ahead to Main Street, 1 for a right turn up 3 north. And the other 3rd lane, which really isn't, it's only related to signalization, would have been a second right turn lane from 3 north onto 25. Now, how is that related to signalization? That lane would not be affected by a green light to Main Street, where the traffic in the other right turn lane has to yield, or by traffic turning left from 3 north that lane would not have to pay any attention to that. You'd have two lanes going eastbound, and when sort of there was an indication that the other two lanes on the north side of 25 were not sort of a great idea, they're happy to take the one lane. That one lane, we'll come back to that, would take a slice off the corner of the Bay Point corner, but it would also take the entire northerly side of their parking lot. And it would extend to taking a slice out of the scenic park, and that would go as far over as, depending on what they want to do with Pleasant Street, there would be a significant slice taken out of the scenic park. That's that second lane. Now, this was not discussed. I mentioned this to Phil, but I talked to their consulting engineer, and I said, well, what if we didn't add any of these lanes? Just to improve signalization. He said, you have what you have now. Okay? And they went into a whole song and dance about how you can have traffic lights that sing, dance, and change, change by the day of the week, and then the time of the day, and the season, and all that. Well, these may exist. But if you recall, the DOT engineer who was here at our last meeting talking about a traffic light at the corner, at the Meredith Center Road intersection, said that their policy is not to do that because it confuses drivers who sort of expect to have the light work a certain way, and having it change on a daily basis or Monday to Friday is not their policy. Now, these guys had not heard that, so they may come back and say, oh, that's not true, that is not our policy. Who knows? Then we considered proposed bypass that would take a two-lane westbound traffic on 25 north of the bank and across Hawkins Brook and bring it into 3 somewhere to the north. I think it's quite clear that that would take an enormous, if you brought it into the parking lot there, it would take an enormous hunk out of the parking lot. They also said it would take an enormous hunk out of the bank's parking lot, but the diagrams that they show do not show that the bank would be seriously affected. The parking lot certainly would be. And I guess I've concluded that you'd have to take it further north, maybe north of the sewage pumping station, but that was not sort of raised officially. So I guess the thing is sort of moribund but still alive. That would bring the bypass north of the pumping station to a hybrid roundabout with 2 lanes that would send the 2 lanes south, merging into 1 lane before it approaches Main Street. They are dead set against merging to 1 lane before you come to Main Street. They want 2 lanes at Main Street. Right? They also said that the bypass, if you had a single lane roundabout at Main Street, that the bypass would back up and block the northern. When it was suggested to them that, okay, why don't you take the northern route and send it down on 25 and then bring it back across Hawkins Brook? Oh, it's a federal highway, we can't touch that. Okay, it's US 3, we can't even discuss that. All right, I think some of my views are starting to trickle in here.
Was the last one of those?
I suggested we have some U.S. senators, one of whom's running for re-election, but didn't get anywhere. All right, now we get toward the end of the meeting. This went on and on and on. Toward the end of this meeting, we discussed pedestrian controls on Route 3. We did not discuss pedestrians at a roundabout. That is still to be discussed. They raised the possibility of raising the roadbed and putting a tunnel under it, which the committee seemed, without taking a vote, seemed to regard that as dead on arrival. All right, raise the roadbed, interfere with the view, would be not a good thing. Then they came back and said, well, they could put a pedestrian traffic light like the one at Rite Aid at Dover Street. But they didn't want to do anything other than Dover Street, so we never got into discussion of what are you going to do about Lake Street. So that remains open for further discussion. Then at the very end of the meeting, with really no time for discussion, they raised the possibility of a roundabout at Pleasant Street in the absence of a bypass. And they never really said whether it was a 1-lane roundabout or a 2-lane roundabout. In either case, if it's a 1-lane roundabout, it would take a little nick out of the park. if it's a two-lane roundabout, it would take a bigger nick. It would also take out the deli, and you know, might take out that old white police station. I think the single-lane roundabout would probably take out the white gas station, the former gas station.
Like so.
They never got into a discussion of why this was needed, because every time we've said Pleasant Street in the absence of anything, we say, well, the cones work. Well, I've heard maybe the cones don't always work, but I'm guessing that what they have in mind is shutting off left turn traffic out of the shopping center, and thereby not having left turns and a cop stopping traffic to permit left turns in the direction of Center Harbor. Because then, if you had a roundabout there, you could say right turn only from the shopping center, go down to the roundabout, make your go around, and you're on your way. All right. Now, that reports the meeting. It seems fairly clear to me, this is now me talking, it seems fairly clear to me that they want three things. First, they want a second lane going eastbound from 3 and cutting across, as I said, taking out a good portion of the parking lot at Bay Point and slicing off a piece of the park. They might want to continue that as a two-lane thing into a two-lane roundabout, but they've been unclear about that. The second, that is, to me, I think it's become clear to me that that is their principal objective, to improve Friday night northbound traffic. Their next objective is to do something about the westbound traffic, and there they are absolutely dead set that they want a two-lane roundabout at the 3 and 25 intersection. Although they are prepared to consider that there'd be 2 lanes on, you know, on 2 sides of the circle and 1 lane on the north side of the circle. Okay? Well, that remains to be discussed, and it is my view, and I have had this view expressed to me by others on the committee, that a 2-lane roundabout at Main Street at the time of heavy traffic will make it impossible for people to come from Main Street and go over to 25. You can get into that first lane of the 2 lanes, but if they're all going south, you're never going to be able to cross that inner lane. And you'll just have, you know, we can have the ambulance chasers standing at the corner, okay? And stewards as well. But they'll be moving slow enough. I don't think stewards would get much business. So that is their second major objective. But it's not, I think the one on the left-bound, the right turn lane is more important to them. And then the third objective, which just sort of occurred to me, is this roundabout at Pleasant Street. Because every time we say, oh, we've got Pleasant Street under control, no, we have to have a roundabout. And I think it's to prevent the left turns out of the shopping center. So where are we? The 3 principal real estate owners at the corner are meeting this week to discuss what they might be willing to do. My own view is it's time to bring this to an end, and maybe the answer is some members on the committee, indeed one vocally said, this only affects us 8 to 10 weekends a summer. Why are we doing this? And it seems to me the DOT does not regard us as our town as important. They regard us as an obstacle. I think they would prefer a limited access highway right through town with no on-ramps and no off-ramps. And any way that they can achieve something close to that, that's what they want. So they're looking
That's where we were 15 years ago.
That's where you are.
That was identical. Exactly.
In my view. In my view. And I think it's about time to bring the thing to a head. I've told their consulting engineer that I don't think, I've told him several times, I don't think the 2-lane roundabout is going to fly. If it flies with the committee, I don't think it'll fly with the public. They persist. So there ends my report.
And do you have a date for the next meeting? The
date of the next meeting is August 21st.
Thank you, Lou, for all the time and effort you spend with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm fine. I thought we could really achieve improvement for the town I am not so sure of that now. Indeed, I'm kind of on a viewing that we cannot achieve improvement, and that maybe we just have to end this process. Phil, your views.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo Lou's sentiments with the two-lane roundabout, and I also echo, and I apologize for my lack of memory, whoever mentioned at the committee level, that it is only 8 to 10 weekends a year.
Liz.
You're going to put a two-lane roundabout in that's going to handle traffic extremely efficiently on Friday night and Sunday afternoon, with the exception of Main Street. And then the remainder of the year, that two-lane roundabout's going to be vacant. Literally vacant. At least, and if, you know, the system we have today is that when we're not in those peak periods, you pull up to that light, it turns green. Without a two-lane roundabout. And the other item that has not been answered in here whatsoever is that who is going to maintain the sidewalks, the center of the roundabout, the traffic signal light? We just went through this with Rite Aid, where the state was very clear that they don't maintain sidewalks or traffic signalization. So we had to make that deal with Rite Aid so that they're responsible for it. Who are they going to make the deal with for this? That's the only point.
I'd say if you put a bridge across Hawkins Brook, the Pathways Committee.
But I just bring that up because we haven't even gotten to that point. And the other unknown is,
absolutely don't want to do that.
the other unknown is you put a roundabout, rotary, whatever you want to call it, at 3 and 25. Remember the, and I will use this term, cluster of utilities we have in the ground there. We've got a lot of utilities that can't be moved that would then be under a roundabout. And when I say can't be moved, you've got 2 force mains that belong to the Winnipesaukee River Basin Program, and actually a valve cluster that controls them right in the middle of that intersection. They're in the island, actually.
Part of the problem is the soils are so unstable, they move all the time.
Well, yeah, right. So, I mean, these are some of the pieces I bring that we haven't even gotten to. We haven't even gotten to a preferred alternative because, you know, to echo Lou's statement, every time you meet with these folks, they steer us towards that 2-lane roundabout. They're always steering us toward it.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Pete?
Also, another side, I don't think it's even been picked on. I think the town would be getting into the greatest undertaking we have taken on in quite a while for sewer and water if this thing was to go through, because we'd have to basically do the whole restructuring in front of the bank. Would that be true?
Sewer, water for the town. Now again, as I just said, the one that really scares me is the Winnipesaukee River Basin Program's 2 force mains that our pump station looks into. Because we all know the strategy at the Winnipesaukee River Basin Program, and I'll be real brief on this, I know you're all sick of hearing from me about it, but we know their strategy is that they have no plans to do, they being the administration of the program, not the advisory board members, have had no plans to date to do any work in the infrastructure outside the gate of the plant. So we don't know what shape those are in, and we know that there'd be no commitment, there's been no commitment to this point. How are we going to get a commitment to change those, you know, do work on those mains now? And they're already in disrepair.
I would add that the bypass would not affect anything under 25. It might affect, if you had a roundabout, it might affect something under the roundabout, but it would not affect anything on 25. It doesn't interest them.
Peter?
Just a question, and maybe old news to many, but my question is, if you look at this and you say at the present time and in the near future it's 8 to 10 weekends, what's preventing the committee and others from looking at all the sister roads that are around and making some improvements in those veins versus just concentrating on the arteries, and improving those so that they can accept what I would call more of the local traffic, and then those with the GPS will, you know, and that are looking just to get north or south, you know, can go through the town. It seems to me that I know there's some issues with some bridges on the Center Harbor and New Hampton side, but I mean, if this just really doesn't look like it's going anywhere, it just begs the question: what about other improvements to break up the traffic and move it around, rather than still try to thread it through the needle?
Well, I would just say, Peter, that this committee is a Town of Meredith committee, and we have no, we have no authority, nothing that sends us to, dealing with roads in Santa Barbara and New Hampton.
State property.
Well, if the state came back and said, this is what we want to do, I guess then we'd have to have a 3-town committee. But remember, the last committee had every town in the neighborhood, and that went on for like 3 years and accomplished nothing.
It was too cumbersome.
Yeah. So.
Hillary?
Sorry.
And you can talk about moving to the non-main artery roads, but then you're getting into like going up Main Street and going up Lockewan Street and going down in the neighborhoods, not so much where I am, maybe because of the loops, but we definitely have speeding problems and distracted driver problems in those neighborhoods, and there's little kids there when you're pulling people off of the arteries onto those back roads. And I know particularly on Lockewan, at one point they routed a lot of people going up through there, and I got complaints from people that were living on that street about there were signs there telling the traffic to go that way. So,
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Don't want to debate with any of my fellow selectmen, but the point being, they're already doing that. They're finding the alternatives now, and they're putting speeding problems, widths, condition of roads and drainage and everything else. So it's reality already. I mean, so I guess I have a little trouble buying into that as an argument. It's going to continue to be an argument. However, in reality, it's going to happen. So how can we make that faster, safer, and better? Some of it would be enforcement. Some of it would be making some improvements to those secondary roads. I mean, that just, to me, that just makes sense.
Well, is there a somewhat of a schedule? I think there was one that we saw initially when you started this committee up again. Is there some type of a schedule that they're supposed to be?
Well, yes, and that's what we're trying to meet. Their schedule is to choose an alternative in 2014 so that engineering can begin in 2015. And then they would build in 2017.
Oh, it might be nice if, think of the money that the state would have for Barnard Ridge and Parade Road, Meredith Neck Road and Barnard Ridge Road. If we suffered through 8 weekends of summer without doing anything, we could fix those roads.
Unfortunately, the money here mostly is a $5 million federal grant for improving this intersection.
Oh, that must be used.
Well,
that makes sense now, I get it.
Well, use it or lose it, you know?
Right, well, we've done that before. Are there any other comments on this item?
Thank you, Lou. I appreciate what you've done.
Yeah, me too, Lou. Any other select board comments, committees or anything? No, Hillary? Good. Well, I have an update for our new senior group. Very excited to see them being so active. Their new Interlakes Collaborative for Active Seniors. The group meets weekly here, Wednesdays at 11 o'clock. And they are also working with the Trinity Episcopal Church in establishing a 501c3 status so that they can sort of be their own entity, which I think is a good step in the right direction, actually. Of course, that's just my opinion. They do have a survey on surveybunky.com, which is very interesting. I actually brought it to share it with the board members if you want to look at it. They have 22 activities on their survey. They actually have 61 completed surveys, and the top 3 choices are day trips, exercise and socializing, and I think, what was the third one there, Peter?
On the top?
coffee and socializing. But anyway, it's interesting to see the feedback that they are getting from the seniors in town. And also I'd like to commend the camp kids on July 23rd. They prepared and served a full spaghetti lunch to the seniors, and the seniors prepared desserts, and it was a great event, and it was nice to see that. And they also have a Facebook page, Interlakes Collaborative for Active Seniors, so if you're on Facebook on the computer, you can go and check that out. And any seniors in town that might be interested, I encourage you to come down to the community center Wednesdays at 11 o'clock for their meetings. And that's it. Under new business, we have 12-24 Senator Kelly Ayotte board update.
And not Senator Ayotte.
Thank God you cleared that up.
Madam Chair, members of the Select Board.
Can you just push that button so the red light comes on?
Red light.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Town Manager Warren. It's an honor to be here tonight. My name is Simon Thompson. I serve as a special assistant to Senator Kelly Ayotte, working out of her Nashville office. The point of my visit to you this evening is to be a part of, is part of the Senator's Community Outreach Program. That program the Senator has in place here in New Hampshire. The goal of it is to have either a member of the staff or the Senator herself visit each and every city and town in New Hampshire to meet with local officials, such as yourself, area residents, kind of hear concerns, take back concerns. If there's questions we can answer on the spot, I'd be happy to do it. If there's projects the town is having or an individual may have, I'm here to listen and to try to provide some assistance. I am or have served on local boards in my town, so I know your time is precious. I don't anticipate to take much more of it. But I did want to just open it up to you folks for any comments, concerns, and if there's anybody in the crowd after the fact who kind of would have more of a personal issue or concern, I'd be happy to meet with them in private outside of the meeting here. So that being said, I'll open it up to you, and again, appreciate the time and all you folks do here in Meredith.
Thank you, Simon. Any comments, Lou?
You heard one go by, and that is, how do you get Route 3 sent 3/10 of a mile to the east and then 3/10 of a mile back to the northwest?
You know, I appreciate that discussion. I gotta say, I think maybe a little bit more background or history on that, because I did hear your concern on that being a federal highway, but I'm not quite sure I know exactly what you guys are wrestling with right here. But I'd be happy to look into it. So basically, there's New Hampshire DOT's got some thoughts in mind about how they want to handle some of this congestion, take it, and you're serving on a committee that's trying to represent the town and town interests.
I'll discuss it with you afterward rather than take up everybody's time.
All right.
But if we could persuade DOT, this would be a bypass that would save a lot of property, and it would also save, I think it would improve the town because it would add a new sort of business district to the north side of the town, so that you not only get traffic moving faster, but you would be improving the town, which is something that DOT just doesn't seem to be interested in at all.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll leave you with some contact information. You can maybe touch base on this a little bit more in detail.
Nate?
Yes, Simon, just a quick question. What does Kelly have on her agenda? What would be her top things that might be coming up as she sees coming in the legislative year? Interestingly enough, this past week they finished up some work before they went on their in-state work period break. Some of the things that they were able to accomplish or get passed was some short-term solutions to the Highway Trust Fund. That was somewhat of a band-aid to make sure that. Concerns us all is, and hopefully she's on board, and I think she is, that the federal stop pushing things down to the state, so the state pushes them down to us. That is, it's getting a little grindy right now, shall we say.
Understandable.
Yes.
And I appreciate that comment, and I'll make sure I bring it to her attention as I travel around, meeting some of your neighboring communities today. It's a message I hear quite often, so it's I do my part to make sure she hears it too as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Simon, for coming in.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of your summer. And like I said, I'm going to step outside for a few minutes. If anybody here has a more personal matter they'd like to discuss in private, I'll be happy to do that. Thank you.
Thanks.
May I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
Sure, Paula, go to the microphone,
Yeah,
please.
I don't, oh.
All right, fine.
I don't have a
Could you
personal
state your
question.
name, Paula? Please state
Oh,
your
I'm
name.
sorry. Paula Trombe from Meredith. I don't have a personal question, but I do have a couple of questions, if that's okay, about some positions that Senator Ayotte may or may not have.
I'm happy to meet with you in private.
Oh, right, okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 12-25, New Hampshire DOT Rural Sign Program for State Highways. Phil.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have a piece of correspondence in your packet from the project manager with New Hampshire DOT regarding signing on horizontal curves and replacement of signs to the new retro-reflective sign standard. As you're aware, and this program is for state-maintained non-numbered routes, state-maintained numbered routes, and state highways. And this program is similar to the program that the town undertook, the difference being that these are state-maintained roads, ways, and byways. They have nothing to do with the town doesn't maintain them, the state does. What the letter basically explains is what the program would entail, and there is a request in the letter where they respectfully request our written support for the Department of installing and replacing these signs. While I think this is a worthy project, in my opinion, I feel it would be inappropriate for the Board of Selectmen to offer any type of opinion or endorsement of this project since it involves state roads. And since it directly references a federal standard that involves state roads and federal funding. That's just, again, as Lou said earlier, that's my feelings.
Thanks, and I agree with that.
Madam Chair.
Other comments?
Madam Chair, I concur with that. I think since it's state on state property that we should just leave it to theirs. We cannot tell them what to do. Is by endorsing them, we become part of it, so hands off. Thank you.
Peter?
Madam Chair, I'm still trying to wrap my arms around why we're even getting the letter. We've been trying to influence them on several of these different roads now for at least more than the 9 years I've been on the board, and so I just have a hard time offering any kind of a ringing endorsement. And more particularly without any significant detail. So I'm just not sure why it's in our lap. Maybe it was Friday and somebody at DOT had something to do. I don't know. I just cannot figure out the rationale behind the request and what motivation there is as a Meredith Selectman to respond with a letter. It just doesn't have any specifics that I feel comfortable with.
Hillary, do you want to add something to that?
I feel like this is Jeopardy, whoever hits the button first sometimes, instead of who's recognized. But anyway, I have a question. What do they want money from us? And if they don't want money from us, what are they asking us to do? Say those are pretty, yay? I mean,
Just to say thank you and back them up.
Okay, so then I have to just kind of agree with Phil and Peter on that it just seems almost pointless, and for them to even have taken the time to send it, it seems almost pointless to be discussing it, so.
Seems to me, Hillary, that they're potentially, I'm not going to be sarcastic, but I'll just say that I think that probably with applying for all the state funding, if they have written suggestions from the towns where they're trying to do this work, probably it would be helpful in their grant writing. That's just my guess.
Okay, that makes sense, that makes sense.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
then, consistent with this discussion, I would ask, let me back up, consistent with this discussion, if there's no objection, I would be more than happy to inform the New Hampshire Department of Transportation that the Board of Selectmen makes no endorsement or comment on this matter as it involves state-numbered routes, ways, byways, etc.
Thank you, Phil.
Could you do me a favor and just put
We
that in
agreement
form of
with
a
that?
motion?
Would you like, do we need to vote?
Yeah, I would, yeah, because they were asking specifically for the select board to do something, so.
Peter, would you like to put that? Someone put it to a motion.
I think, wait a second, I think you ought to put a hook in there and say that we're amused to see that Meredith Center Road and Meredith Neck Road are considered state-maintained roads by them.
Can we, I've been trying to work on something with those, can we back up just a little bit, please?
Okay, suggestion of hook withdrawn.
I make a motion that the town manager, Phil Warren, let the Department of Transportation know that we will make no recommendation either way on the signs since these are state roads.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second, Nate Tour. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, I didn't ask for further discussion. That's all right. Is there any old business to come before the board? No. Okay, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 10 minutes of 6. Meeting adjourned.